Mr. Vice President, thank you so much for sitting down with me again.
Great to see you.
Thank you. Let's start with the fact that our border is now secure, and this president's immigration policies, this administration's immigration policies, despite grandstanding from Democrats, has led to the deportation of thousands of violent, illegal criminals, and obviously we have seen the lowest border crossings in American history.
Correct.
Where do you think the immigration policy of the United States goes from here?
I'll tell you a story. So, and you can, if you watch the State of the Union address last year, you will see this, because the president added a line last year where he said, it turns out we didn't need a bunch of new laws, we just needed a new president. And I, in the Senate, had been kind of pushing back against this idea that we needed some, immigration law that actually was a bad immigration law. And so I was like so into that line that I stood up before anybody else and was just like, yes, absolutely. It really is the case that you just needed a new president. It's not that hard to enforce the immigration laws. It just takes a little bit of political willpower. So where do we go from here? I mean, look, there are a couple of things that we're trying to do. One, we're going to keep on getting people who came into the country illegally out of the country. There's this crazy narrative in the media that deportations are chaotic and they're terrible, when in reality, the only places where deportations are chaotic is in Minneapolis and is in Los Angeles. So the president has asked us to continue with the immigration policy, but frankly, where you have the blue states, the blue cities that aren't willing to work with us, to force them to work with us. You saw murders come down by 20% in 2025. Well, a big part of that, there's a lot of reasons for it. A big part of that is you've gotten these violent, criminal, illegal aliens out of the country. So we're going to keep on doing that. We're going to keep on working at it. I'm sure the Democrats will throw up some obstacles in our way, but we're not going to stop.
Well, you brought up Minnesota. That's for sure been a very chaotic area. You now have the leaders there now saying that they want reparations from ICE. So Jacob Fry and Tim Walz believe that they should be paid money. They say that the federal government must pay for what they broke. Now, all of a sudden, they care about money. Apparently, they didn't care about it with the fraud. What is your response to that?
Well, my response is on behalf of the American people, would like reparations from them for allowing Somali fraudsters to steal billions of dollars from the American taxpayer that live in Minnesota. They've done nothing to cut down on that fraud. I think it's absurd for people to say, we want reparations. Reparations for what? Because we enforced the law that the American people elected us to do? Because we took people who were setting up fraudulent daycare centers and tried to get them out of this country? Because we took sex criminals out of neighborhoods and either put them in prison or sent them far away from the United States of America? We're doing the job the American people elected us to do. No one is talking about anything other than enforce the law against criminal, illegal aliens in the United States of America. It's really not that hard. And it's a huge indictment of Jacob Fry and, frankly, the entire far left, that they made that their cause of the day, letting violent sex offenders stay on the streets of America. The president's just not going to go for that.
Well, the irony doesn't end there, unfortunately, for the Democrats. They've now thrust us into a DHS shutdown, and they claim the reason is that they want more oversight into ICE and CBP, but in doing so have actually paused any ongoing audits into federal law enforcement conduct. So this clearly is all a political play.
Yeah, so I actually talked to a couple of my former Senate colleagues, people who are able to work across the aisle, who have good relationships with Democrats, and I said, look, please come to me and the president and tell me, what is it exactly the Democrats want to allow us to continue to enforce the border? What is it that they're asking for? What policy changes? We're not going to agree with a lot of them, but at least let's put an offer on the table. And what's become abundantly clear is there is no offer on the table. They're just throwing a temper tantrum and hoping that the president will give up entirely on the idea of border enforcement. So what we will be willing to do is talk to anybody about how we can make the enforcement of our immigration laws easier and smoother. We're willing to have that conversation, but we're not going to give up on the American border.
Well, I imagine after the shutdown ends, number one priority will be passing the Save America Act.
Absolutely.
Why is that so important for this country?
It's so simple. To get on an airplane, you need voter ID. To buy a beer, you need voter ID. But to do the most important thing that we do as American citizens, exercising our right to vote, we let anybody vote without any confirmation they actually have the right to vote in our elections. Now, I think, Laura, that's actually a form of theft, Because let's say that you, an American citizen, show up and vote for a candidate, and then somebody else who has no right to vote shows up and votes for a totally different candidate. That person is stealing your vote away from you, stealing your sovereignty as an American citizen. It's very disgraceful. Now, what the Democrats will say, and I always find this so funny, they'll say it's racist to ask for voter ID. I actually think that's kind of racist, assuming that people of color can't get a driver's license. And by the way, if you look at the polling, black, brown, Asian, everybody agrees it is a 90-10 issue that we should have voter ID to vote in our elections. The other thing, and this is my favorite, the Democrats will say, Laura, well, voter ID is not necessary because nobody who's not allowed to vote ever votes in our elections. And my response to that is, well, if nobody who shouldn't vote does vote, then why do you care if we check their ID just to be extra careful?
Well, obviously, this is going to be an important thing, especially as we head towards the midterms in November. If you had to break down for Republican candidates right now what you think their messaging needs to be to their constituents or potential constituents around the country, what would you say the message needs to be? Most
persuadable voters are voting on, did you guys make my life better? And I think we have a very good record to run on that account. By the way, Laura, it's going to get better because we're going to have the biggest tax return season in 2026 because the working families tax cuts passed. If you go back to day one of the Biden administration to day one of the second Trump administration, the average American family lost $3,000. $3,000 of take-home pay because of inflation, because of lower wages, because of higher taxes. In the first year of the second Trump administration, the average American family gained $1,200. Do you want to keep the momentum? That's what I want. You know how I grew up, Laura. You know I grew up in a family where when people lose $3,000 of take-home pay, that is catastrophic. That is food that doesn't get put on the table. That's prescription drugs that don't get bought. That's real sacrifices that happen all across our country. If we can get the American people to continue to gain in their prosperity, to continue to get a little bit richer as opposed to a lot poorer, which is what happened under Biden and the Democrats, that is why we're here. Let's double down on what's working.
Absolutely. Well, I know a lot of issues are going to be addressed coming up next week in the State of the Union. So without getting ahead of the president and what he's going to say, what are top priorities for this administration?
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of the president, but look, you're going to hear a lot about the importance of bringing jobs back into our country, of reshoring manufacturing, of all these great factories that are being built. But when they turn on and you're hiring thousands of American workers per factory, that's when the real Trump boom, I think, starts. I think he's going to talk about regulatory change, the importance of lowering energy prices for American citizens, because, you know, if you lower a person's gas bill or you lower a person's electricity bill, yeah, that's good because they're paying less money for gas and electricity. But it also means the farmer who is taking the food to the grocery store, that price goes down because the farmer's paying less for gas and electricity too. So you'll hear a lot about the Trump energy boom, which is very powerful. We've got record low energy prices, and that's a very good thing to point to.
Well, just before your wife, the second lady, joins us,
Yep.
I want to ask you, because I feel like she might get in here and make you a little more humble about her. What is it you want America to know before she sits down with us about America's second lady?
I know her most of all as a great mom and a great wife, as a person who supports me, who's so good to the kids, who makes it possible for them to grow up as normal kids. But I think that takes a special skill. And so if you're an American citizen wondering what we have in our second lady, this is a person who doesn't really care about the limelight, who's not trying to sort of get out there in front of the crowds all the time, who just wants to give her kids a good life and who wants to be as good of a public servant as possible. I think that's what we should want out of our public leaders. And certainly they have it in our second lady. I guess the other thing I'd say is she really is wicked smart. Usha has this ability to take extremely complicated and a large volume of information. It somehow goes in her head and comes out, and it makes total sense, and she's organized it. She's able to just process a ton of information. She's super smart. And I think that because of that, she's able to, cause me to think about things in a different way. And I think that makes her, not just a great partner to me, but I think she adds a lot of value to the American people. She doesn't like to talk about it. She doesn't like to be out there, but she loves this country, and I think she's doing a great job.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.